Hi, everyone, and welcome to our session on craving more customer conversations. I'm Elon Keshin, Product Marketing Manager here at Ada. I'm joined today by Josh Solomon, the Director of Enterprise Sales. And we're so excited to share with you our thoughts and our vision for the future of how automation and AI help to enable businesses to really lean into having more customer interactions. Today, we're going to talk about how customers have changed, how businesses must catch up, and the future of conversational AI. Let's start with customers. If you think about our own customer experiences, you'll think about waiting on hold. And as we know, that is not a pleasant experience for anyone. There's a stat that really resonated with me that shared how within 1 minute of waiting on hold, 60% of customers will hang up. That's 2/3 of the people calling to interact with your business. Waiting on hold is such a thing of the past. It reminds me of playing video games and how you would blow into a cartridge when it wasn't working. It's a thing of the past. Rolling up a car window, again, something that we just don't do anymore. It's a thing of the past. And finally, rewinding that VCR tape to return it to Blockbuster. It's a thing of the past. Waiting on hold is a thing of the past. And the reality is customers aren't willing to wait on hold, but they are willing to do whatever it takes to get their desired outcome. I recently had an experience where I had booked a flight before the pandemic started. And just as things went into lockdown and we started to realize the reality of the situation, I had to change my flight. I wanted to try and get my money back. I called in to the airline to try and speak with someone. The lines were so long, I waited on hold for hours. I gave up. It wasn't worth it. I went online to start finding answers, but they hadn't even updated their policies or knowledge base with information about the reality of how COVID had impacted their policies. I emailed them trying to get a response. I finally got through to someone, speaking to them back and forth about what my options are. But I was so frustrated. In the meantime, I also went to Twitter. I got a response from someone else in Twitter. The reality is that I went to 4 different places to try and interact with this one business. I'm not alone. Over half of online shoppers abandon a purchase because they can't find answers quickly. We will do whatever it takes, but our expectations are incredibly high. And it is critical for businesses to understand the importance of having these conversations and not be afraid of them. Furthermore, there's huge benefits with having more conversations. Forrester predicts that there will be a 40% increase in the number of digital interactions between customers and businesses. Customers are already spending 5 times the amount of time on messaging apps having conversations with businesses, and over 22 trillion messages were passed back and forth between customers last year on WhatsApp and Facebook alone. The reality is clear. Businesses must catch up. As you can see, I reached out across different channels, and for each digital channel I was conversing with the business on, it was an additional cost to solve that ticket from a live person. So the costs were increasing, and actually the quality in my experience was decreasing for every manual interaction. And this isn't just me. Again, 30% of customers use 2 or more agent-first service channels on their support journey. Going into Twitter, getting a response from the social media team, sending an email ticket, calling into the customer support team on a phone channel. Each time that's done, it takes time and energy for customer support or customer experience teams to resolve those inquiries and to help those customers along their journey. But if you flip the agent-first reality on its head and you take away those manual responses, you realize that they don't scale, but automation first does. Putting automation in front of all of your customer support channels digitally will allow you to scale support and services and to lean into having those conversations with customers that they are so craving. You shouldn't fear conversations. You should crave them. Furthermore, there's huge business benefits if you lean into this reality. Over 186% increase in annual customer satisfaction can be realized from having more digital conversations. And each conversation is an incremental opportunity to generate revenue, to build loyalty with a customer, and to deliver an amazing customer experience. So you might be asking yourself, what is the role of AI in the future of CX? I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Josh to share with you how AI can transform the way you interact with customers.
Thanks, Elon. So before we jump into it, I think it's really important we just take a second to recognize where we are in the life cycle of AI. As we think about our society, we're still very early in the age of the internet, and AI is in its infancy. And as we go forward, it's really likely that AI has the opportunity to play a much larger role and create a bigger impact on our lives and our societies and our culture than the internet even has. And so there's sort of two ways that you can think about this. The first is sort of the doom and gloom version, right? We automate ourselves out of jobs and the world sort of falls over. The second is a slightly more pleasant one where, like every technology before it, AI is actually used for good, and it helps humans free themselves of the mundane tasks that slow them down and allows the human brain to actually focus on more insightful, more meaningful tasks that we were created to actually focus on and achieve. And so this is really the version that I like to think about with AI. And it's really quite interesting as you start to think about how this gets applied to customer experience as a whole. Now, today, we're living in a very interesting world. As we grow our companies, as our operating models try to scale, because we're selling more services, we have more people, our products are changing, our ability to provide meaningful customer support actually worsens. It tapers off. And this is really well illustrated when you compare your local coffee shop to your bank. And so as an example, I go to my coffee shop every morning, I order my coffee, they know who I am, they know my name, they know what I order. Sometimes they even give me like a free cookie or something, you know, that makes me feel really good about my experience in the store. But when I compare that to my bank, who has decades of data on who I am, they still struggle to make me feel like anything less than just a number. And this is because of the inherent operating model that large organizations have. As we try to scale our organization, as we try to scale our operating model, that scale typically comes with more and more humans, and we're not able to actually scale in a productive manner. AI will flip this on its head. As we go forward, companies are going to move from a world where today they actually shy away from customer contact because of the complexities and the costs associated with it, to a world where they crave customer contact. They'll look at these conversations and these insights with their customers as assets, as digital assets that allow them to actually compete and create more meaningful customer experiences that they'll differentiate on. And I had a really interesting example of this just the other day. I had the opportunity to talk to a CIO of one of the largest airlines in the world. And if for a second, you can imagine what her life is like. She, is living through one of the hardest times in her industry. Hard's probably an understatement. And it was interesting to hear her message, because in her view, this was an opportunity to rebuild from the ground up what customer experience for an airline actually looked like. But one of the most insightful things that she said was that she doesn't actually look at this like she's competing against Delta or United Air or any of the other big airlines, but actually competing against the last best experience. Where did the customer last have an amazing experience that has left a mark on them? That's where we need to compete on. And as our customer bases go more and more mobile focused, and as consumer technology becomes easier and easier to use, the expectations for customer experience continue to climb. So what goes into making a really great automated AI-driven customer experience? There's two things that you can sort of think about. The first one is this idea of deepening our understanding, deepening the understanding of our customers. So how much do we know, and how much can we actually show that we know our customers? And you can think of this on a scale from simple to complex, right? Simple, as an example, is I'm able to take a chat on a single channel. I'm an English agent. I can serve that customer and I can close the ticket. Complex moves to a world where we're actually anticipating our customers' needs, where we're looking at our customers based on segments or micro segments, where we're making predictions based on the language type or the channel that the customer is interacting with, and proactively serving information to that customer to help them drive resolutions faster. The second one is to take more complex actions. How much can we do for our customers? How do we actually prove that we can add more value for our customers? So again, when we think about this in sort of the simple example, moving to complex, simple is sort of the idea of one-to-one, call and response. I call the agent, they serve me, see you later. In complex, we start to think about sort of workflow automation and orchestration. How do we start to do a one-to-many, one to millions type of orchestration that allows for a series of events to happen in sequence before the customer actually gets to a point where they know they need them? This becomes incredibly powerful. So you can start to think about this on a chart, right? If we plot out our ability to understand and our ability to take action, a tier one agent probably lives somewhere here. And this is a fair representation in my mind, right? They have a pretty good understanding, right? Because they're human beings, they understand the sentiment and the context of conversations really well. But when you think about it at scale, they're actually quite limited in their ability to take action. They're constrained by time, access to systems, privileges, the number of customers they can serve at once, the languages they speak, so on and so forth. When you think about automation, we sort of believe that Ada lives somewhere here today. We have a little bit less degree of ability to understand the customer as technology around AI and natural language processing is still increasing drastically, but our ability to take action is actually far greater than a tier one agent. We're able to plug into many more systems. We're able to handle many more requests. We're able to speak many more languages, which allow for the ability to actually complete transactions or complete processes on behalf of customers to be rapidly increased. As you think about where this goes, we start to move up and outwards on this scale. How do we actually understand more about our customers? And how do we take more action for them? And our forecast is by the end of 2021, we'll actually surpass the tier one agent on our ability to both understand and take action. And as we move forward, AI and Ada will actually surpass the understanding and action-taking capabilities of a human being. And in my mind, this is not a matter of if, just when. On this chart, it shows you sort of out into the future, throughout the course of the next decade, but AI will make this leap. We will move dramatically forward and faster than we think, and AI will surpass human capabilities in many areas, and CX is a natural place for that to actually happen. So I wanted to give you just a closing example of a customer who's actually well advanced in this journey. And one of the best examples is AirAsia. From AirAsia's point of view, they spent a very long time and a very large investment actually building their own automated solution. At the end of the day, this didn't drive the results that they were looking for, and they chose to partner with Ada. After launching on Ada, they saw dramatic results. They were able to reduce their wait times for their customers by 98%. They contain over 75% of their tickets inside of Ada. They closed over 10% of their call centers, and they're operating now with 24/7 support across 11 languages. And I thought this quote from Adam was a really good reflection of sort of the value that a solution like Ada can drive. And the piece that I really want to highlight here is where the value comes from for a customer like AirAsia is for a platform like Ada to tie into every key business system that their team relies on to actually serve their customers. So whether that's Salesforce, their CRM, whether that's a CX platform where their agents operate from, whether that's a flight booking and management system, anywhere where data needs to be surfaced to allow for customers to actually drive resolutions inside of a bot, inside a chat experience, is a very critical piece to actually being able to drive significant value to both our customers like AirAsia and our customers' customers. And I'll show you just one great example that we saw on LinkedIn the other day that really speaks to this. And so this is a LinkedIn post talking about a recent experience that someone had with AirAsia on WhatsApp. And if I just read it to you, it says, "Mind blown. Just changed my rescheduled AirAsia flight on WhatsApp in under 3 minutes, fully automated using a chatbot.
with automation and AI truly at scale. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your time. If you want to learn more about Ada or see what we can do for your organization, go to ada.support/demo and check it out for yourself.